Check, check, mic check. Microphone check on the mic. On the mic. On the microphone. What is this? It's all weird. It's all weird, everybody. Woo! Oh, let's start out here. What's that? There's like a weird overlay. What is going on? It's supposed to be Monday. What's that weirdness? This is weird. Hold on. I wonder if it's the opacity. Hold on. What is that? Oh, it is. It's the opacity. Oh, man. I was trying to figure out what that was. It's all weird. Here, let's go like this. This camera 2. Camera 2 is bleeding through on the image. There. Then I can go like this and show you guys what I'm seeing. I don't know if you guys are seeing it on your end, but that really fires up the beginning of the show, doesn't it? There we go. Let's turn that off and fix it. Boom! There we go. What's up, everybody? How you doing? That was weird. It wasn't doing that earlier when I set up everything for the show, but I guess I know why. I set up all my software, but I didn't have any lights on in here, so I'm guessing it was so dark I couldn't see that in the overlay, so sorry about that. Yeah, what's up, everybody? It's Monday. How you doing? That was a very exciting beginning of the show. I know. It's like, hey, this is broken. Right out the gate. You know what I'm talking about. But anyhow, welcome to a Monday show where I'm hanging out, drinking some coffee, trying to figure out what is going on in the world. It seems to be very, very confusing out there in the world right now. I think we're at a very confused point. I got to turn the sound off over here, and I might as well run over and do this real quick because it's the one thing I know is different. Let's click the button. We got to go to the members button. All right, there we go. We have to update the membership number. If anybody notices this number up here, I have to do it with both hands because I can't remember the reverse camera action. Welcome back, our friend, your friend, the zombie drummer. We're up to 92 members. We're still shy of that glorious 100. We're still shy of the glorious 100, but hey, every little drop in the bucket counts, and we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, making YouTube videos and hopefully bringing you guys more and more content. So, first bit of news today on a Monday that is aquarium related, sort of superficially aquarium related. Does that make sense? It's on the outside. So, this morning I got an update that 2 years ago we were at InterZoo, myself, Corey from Aquarium Co-op, George Farmer, Oliver Knott, Chris Lucup, Uris was there. I mean, those are just the people right off the top of my head. A bunch of people there were having fun and taking selfies. You know what I'm saying? Taking them selfies together and stuff. And I realized a little bit of depression on my own end, in my own mind, my mind space kind of deal was, oh man, we were supposed to be gearing up right now to head to Europe for the InterZoo that, by the way, just in case anybody out there is wondering, InterZoo has been moved to next year. So InterZoo is a gigantic convention. It's arguably, it might not be the biggest, because I believe the Chinese International Pet Show might be technically the biggest. I'm not sure. Maybe it's a tie between the two. Who knows? I don't know. But as far as I know, it's either the biggest or like the second biggest. It's huge, gigantic. Fish, pets, all that kind of stuff. So many, like pretty much every fish aquarium related equipment company, the fish food, all that kind of stuff is all there. This year we were revolving around the idea of doing documenting Inner Zoo in a whole different way this time around, so that could bring a lot of content kind of back with us. And we were kind of leveraging I was kind of leveraging all of my, I guess this is why you don't put your fish all in one bucket, right? Or your eggs in one basket, or your files on one hard drive. I don't know. What's an example that works? Maybe one of those three. Who knows? But maybe you just don't put all your eggs in one basket because of things like this, like a global pandemic that only happens once every 100 years or something. And so it's canceled. It's moved to next year. And I realized I was kind of struggling with a little bit of my own depression over realizing that earlier today. I was like, man, that's what we're supposed to be doing right now. We're supposed to be in Europe. We're supposed to be in Germany doing that. And we're not. We're out here dealing with this pandemic of just the Groundhog's Day, day after day after day of taking care of the baby, trying to do YouTube work, taking care of the baby while Vicky does health insurance work, taking care of the baby while I make dinner, then we get to dinner, and then I go work in my shop manufacturing for Aquarium Co-op. You know what I mean? Like, it's just been very, very much a Groundhog's Day of craziness. But needless to say, Inner Zoo will happen next year. I will be planning to go to that. We shall see if it works out. I feel like right now making plans a year from now is like, you know what I mean? So, I'm just kind of in the headspace of like, I guess I just really don't know what the future is going to hold, because, we also, a thing that happened this morning, I got an email from our daycare, which has decided that they're opening on Monday. So a week from today, on the 18th, they're deciding that they're planning on reopening the daycare, which, it is what it is. But the stay-at-home order here in Washington is still until the 31st of May, so I'm not 100% sure why the daycare is opening early, but we got that going on, and now I'm just trying to figure out, like, what is going on, because we seemingly have, like, two groups of people in the U.S. here. There's, like, one group of people that are like, don't worry about it, it's like a flu or something, it'll be fine. And then the other group in the U.S. is like, this is a dangerous virus that's killing a lot of people, and we have a lot of death. So we should probably continue to mitigate, right? So I don't know. It just seems like I'm somewhere in the middle right now. I'm somewhere in the middle of going like, what's happening? Like, what are we doing? So it's a little bit wild. So yeah, I'm literally up in the air. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen, but I am fairly excited from that position of a little bit of depression. Here's how I worked my way out of it. I literally was like, oh, you know what? All that stuff sucks, and all that stuff is weird and confusing and stressful, right? And I'm like, okay. But what's really going on? Hey, we got a roof over our head. We got food in the freezer. We got all that kind of stuff. That's all good. Baby's healthy. Everything's fine. Okay. But something that I thought was kind of very interesting was, I don't know if you guys watch Last Week Tonight with John Oliver on HBO. I don't know if you have ever watched that show. There's a lot going on with the U.S. Post Office right now. They posted like a 20-minute video about it. I would highly recommend anybody checking that out. You guys know that I am a huge proponent of the United States Postal Service. I am a huge fan of everything that they do, everything that's going on there. And that 20-minute video gives you kind of a breakdown of what's going on right now with it, a lot better than I can, in a much more concise manner. Now, why is that important? You know, the United States Postal Service is very important to me in my head, in my belief system of like how systems should work in the United States. It's always difficult for me to hear people like badmouth the post office when they don't even seem to have a grasp of the entire nature of what the post office is and how it has to operate in the world, how it's required to operate because of the laws that it has to follow, right? But I was thinking about that. I was thinking about Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, which started like 6 years ago, I think. 6, maybe 7 years ago. Hold on. And I forgot to look this up. Last Week Tonight, IMDb. Let's check this out. So, 2014. So, I don't, did it start 2014 or did it start like 2013? So let's call it 7 years ago. They started prepping. First episodes came out in 2014, right? So right around that time is when I personally made the decision that my life was more important than my continued drug and alcohol abuse, right? So in 2 days from now, I will have exactly 6 years sober, which is exciting. And all that stuff kind of tied together in my head of like, I really, you know, whether you respect what you envision as the political leanings of Last Week Tonight or not, I would hope that you at least respect the production quality, the writing that goes into it, the set design, the bits, the things that go on and stuff on that show is quite good. You know, you might be like, oh, I don't know, man. They seem to kind of do whatever, you know, maybe they have a whatever political view you might disagree with or something like that. That's fine. But you at least respect the quality of the show, of what it is and that kind of stuff. And I do have to admit that, you know, I wasn't necessarily there on the ground floor. I think we were watching them and I was like, yeah, this is all right. This is kind of good. But I do have to admit that if you go back and look at some of the older episodes and look at some of the new episodes now, it's made this monumental progression, right? Of kind of a startup show doing a thing with an idea, and then it's continued to kind of blossom into a thing that really seems to work really well. It you know, just the quality is so good. And I do realize that if I go back and look at my own content from 7 years ago, it is so terrible in comparison to what is going on now. Like, I feel like if we had like a Venn diagram is not the right term, but let's say we just had like a spreadsheet of increased quality that went from 1 to 100 on a timeline. I feel like I'm at maybe 30, right? Like I've got 70 more to go on as far as the quality that I want to be at. And I do realize that like the progress that has happened without even having made the decision up until, you know, maybe 3 years ago of like, yeah, this is something that I really want to do. I want to continue to invest my time in, you know, figuring out things like, oh, I got to relearn how to use a camera. Like, I don't really know how to use a camera anymore. Cause when I learned on a camera in 1995. So I learned on stills cameras and, you know, doing stuff in a dark room and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I definitely feel like, wow, man, that'll really break you out of personally, that kind of realization type stuff break me out of a depression, that's for sure. Because it's like, yeah, you know what? Things are at least headed somewhere. Like, maybe I can't go out to a restaurant tonight. Maybe I can't go bowling. I don't know. Maybe, whatever it is, whatever the thing is that you really wanted to do that happens to be closed right now. From my own personal perspective of like, man, there's stuff that I want to go do, but I can't go do it right now. That does kind of suck. But kind of battling back against the what the depression is, it's like, yeah, but things are headed in the right direction. They might not be headed at the speed that I want to continue getting better and better, that kind of stuff. But that's all superficial. Like, I should just respect the fact that I have, like, I literally have the legs for my gimbal just sitting over here right now. So things are going pretty good. We're not going to be able to go to Interzoo. We're not going to be doing that stuff. That's going to have to wait till next year. Hopefully some of that stuff gets sorted out, especially with the virus and everything that's going on. So hopefully all that stuff gets sorted out and we're able to do some air quote reporting, some filming, some story making. And I think I'm almost looking at the opportunity like, that's another year to get better, to go document something that I think is a pretty big deal. You know what I'm saying? That's a big convention. It's a big deal. It's a big thing. So, yeah. Revo 13 says at least all the local fish stores here are open. I don't know where you're at. Your avatar is of the Miami Dolphins, so I'm guessing you're in Florida. So, cool. That's cool that they're open. And thanks for the congrats, guys. It's all just one day at a time, and we just keep doing what we're doing. Fish Tank Barn with a huge $20 super chat. Thanks, my guy. Congrats on 6 years sober. Well, thank you, Mike. I 100% appreciate it, man. Appreciate your content. And speaking of my own content getting better and better over time, I can't wait till I see the Fish Tank Barn stuff 5 years from now and just how much it incrementally gets better, because it really does. Like, I know Mike's like me, where he's going to make these continued like little improvements over time. And yeah, can't wait to see that, right? That's going to be cool, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being goofy. Raconcamanca out there in New York on Long Island. Well, I can't imagine that like that much stuff in New York has really been open, but I don't know, maybe. Phil says, click a button. Got it. I will click a button. I'm on it. Let's see. Let's scroll back up here. We had some stuff in the chat I was reading as it was going by while I was rambling on. Texas Andy says, yeah, everything in the Houston area has technically reopened. Okay. Yeah, I'm assuming that like things hardly even really closed in Texas anyhow, which to be honest with you, I don't think is going to be that great. I personally don't think it's going to be that great. Most of the experts that I would refer to are like, if we just kind of open up right away and that kind of stuff, it's not, the virus doesn't care about the air quote economy. So it would just continue to keep going. So, I seems to me like the virus is just going to spread a lot, and a lot of people are going to get it, and there's going to be a lot of sad news here over the summertime, would be my guess. I don't know. My mother-in-law owns a small postal store, and the stories she has told me about people getting mad about things that they can't send due to laws. Some people just don't have common sense. There's a lot of stuff you can send in the post office or via the post, but yeah, I mean, hazardous materials, that kind of stuff you can't. But from speaking from personal experience, you know, fish keeping and plant keeping and shrimp keeping and that kind of stuff, like I would say that most of us heavily rely on the post office to be able to, you know, ship stuff out. Almost all of the shippers that I know use the post office. They don't use FedEx or UPS or that kind of stuff, and that's generally speaking for a really, really, really important reason, and it's that most of those profitable companies that are just strictly making profit, they're not required to go to all of the places like the United States Post Office is, Postal Service is. So oftentimes, like if you're somebody who's shipping out shrimp, for instance, one of the big downsides is that like maybe you get 10 orders in a week or 20 orders. Let's say you're doing pretty good and you're getting 20 orders a week. And it turns out if you're with UPS or FedEx, for instance, 3 of the addresses they don't go to. Right? So you just be like, wait a minute. Why is shipping all these other boxes? This one's $17, this one's $28, and suddenly this one is $73? Like, what's going on here? You know, it's all that kind of stuff that just doesn't work out very well. And I know that most people just hear the horror stories on a regular basis of like, well, you know, my fish got here and they were dead. You know, more often than not, it's typically because it's a lot of that comes from the shipper's end, to be honest with you. You know, if stuff's not double bagged, if things aren't bagged and tied properly, if they're not packed properly in the box, if they're not labeled properly, you're not supposed to just ship live stuff standard, like it fits at ship's box, because it's supposed to be handled specifically, right? But a lot of shippers are like, well, I'll just save and ship it, you know, regular old priority and just kind of hope for the best. And a lot of times, you know, the critters and fish and plants and stuff like that are the ones that end up paying the price on somebody just trying to save money, you know, on the shipping stuff. So, you know, I have a lot of respect for the Postal Service, and I think it should be expanded. You know, I don't think it should be contracted. I 100%, 1,000% do not think that it should be privatized. You know, considering all of the interactions that I've had with other companies, I guess we'll say, they, you know, yeah, it's just, it's a big thing. Let's see. Joel G says USA has so many people, 400 million? It's more like 350 million. And they can travel freely, etc. in such a way I don't know how you'd ever control it there, because a sufficient lockdown to manage that until when would seem worse over the mid-long term. To answer that question, Joel, it's not a simple answer, but a simple answer would answer that question. Top-down leadership, basically. Federal mandate on what is going on, what the plan is, what is happening, the communication from the top down. That would be the way to handle a sufficient lockdown. You know, the thing is, when we knew that the virus was here, so not to get my dates all screwed up or anything like that, but early March, we knew we had like a couple hundred cases, and a lot of people said that's not a big deal. It's not whatever. It's just a couple of hundred people, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Had we just all said we're going to lock down for 8 weeks, and it would have been a federal mandate that like everybody's going to do it, we're all going to lock down, and we're going to do that, we would be past that 8 weeks now, and would have more than likely done what happened in South Korea, for instance, or in New Zealand, for instance, where they're having these little tiny pop-ups of that virus and stuff, that it's able to do contact tracing, testing, finding out who has it, who doesn't have it, that kind of stuff, getting people to quarantine. It really is like, that's the reality. Like if it had been a top-down message, and been a federal mandate of like what everybody was going to do, and everybody would have been doing the same thing, we would all most likely be back open now, realistically. But hindsight's 2020. So it's, the thing is, like a couple months ago, a lot of people got mad at me. A lot of people like unsubscribed. They left, they left Patreon. They got super pissed off. Start blasting me on Facebook, doing all this kind of stuff. That's like, being mad at me because they're like, you're talking politics. It's the day-to-day events that are going on that are a big part of what I talk about when I'm on my show here, So, to sit around and act like, I'm somehow like an impartial observer of the world or something. Like, I'm not. I'm a person. I have thoughts. I have things that I believe in and stuff like that. And, there's a lot of people out there like, you shouldn't take sides with anything. And I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's like, should you choose to be successful because you don't pick a side, right? Is that honest? Is that an honest way to go about what it is that you're doing? I don't necessarily believe so. I feel like most people will get onto the internet, they'll get onto a TV show, they'll get onto something like that, and they get online and then they have this persona of who they are, right? It's like, well, hey, everybody, how's it going? It's good to be here today. It's bumper to bumper on the I-5. It's chrome to chrome, everybody. The commute's looking to be a little long today. Hey, let's check out with the weather. Does that person actually... Is that person actually like that in real life? I've met a lot of TV personalities and stuff that act super friendly on TV. They're like, hi, guys. We're here today to talk about our arts and crafts and blah, 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 da, 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 right? And then when you meet them in person, they're like a total psycho, right? And for me, like I've met enough people like that I came to realize a long, long time ago that it would not be a great option for me to get onto my channel that's about me and what my projects are and stuff like that. And then just be like, well, we don't talk about that here because this is strictly only a fish thing, that we will only talk about the dorsal fin of a fish. Like, I love fish tanks. I love fish. I love plants. I love shrimp. I love aquariums. I love building aquariums. I love construction, building things out of wood, building things out of metal, building things out of glass, building things out of acrylic, doing all that kind of stuff. But it would be weird to be like, in my opinion, it would be weird to be like, oh, these are the events that are going on that are shaping what is happening around everybody, right? And then just ignore it somehow, and just act like, oh, no, none of that stuff, I don't have an opinion or anything, It's just weird. I don't know. And I don't think it's necessarily like what I would want to do with my life or anything like that, Jason LaFavor going big time, actually double super chatted the same super chat. So I guess let me know if you want me to. Is there a way to do that? I don't know. Hopefully hopefully you wanted to double it up. I don't know. If there's a way to like refund it or something, I don't know. Or maybe you were trying to do $50. I don't know. But either way, man, super generous. Let me know. Says, love you, man. Congrats on 6 years sober. As an ER nurse, it's always wonderful to see success with the addiction battle. Well, thank you. And I would say ED nurse, right? Emergency department. I think everybody calls it the emergency department now, right? Not the ER anymore. I don't know. That's a question, right? First is a question. But I appreciate your hard work. Thank you. Well, thanks for the super chats for sure. 6 years sober. It's just one day at a time, really, to, really just, figuring out where my values are and stuff like that. Like, and, it's also like, being sober would be the kind of the same deal with all of that, right? Is that like, I really had to make a choice about what, you really have to make a choice about like what it is that what you're doing in life. And I had to make a choice, and I lost a lot of friends, a lot of, I lost a lot of friends, a lot of acquaintances, a lot of important people in my life, that kind of stuff, because, in the United States, the culture in the United States is more, it surrounds alcohol, it surrounds drugs, it surrounds the combination of that. To people out there, you want to make a differentiation with drugs and alcohol, and realistically, I lump them all into the same thing. But alcohol is a drug, and the United States culture revolves around it. Alcohol and drugs in a different kind of whatever way, right? But like, people don't invite me to stuff anymore because they're like, well, people are going to be drinking there, and I'm like, did you want me to come? Because I'll come to your event, right? But people don't invite me anymore because they're like, well, you're sober, so you would be uncomfortable. And I'm like, it's more uncomfortable for me to have the conversation with people that they didn't invite me to a thing that I probably would have enjoyed going to, and then being like, wow, you kind of are just like I don't know. I honestly don't feel like I really know who those people are realistically, when it's like, it's like, oh, we had a big barbecue and we didn't invite you because we thought you would be uncomfortable because people would be drinking around there, right? And I'm not, so Roger Aquariums asks a good question right there. Am I anti-weed? No. Am I anti-tobacco? No. Am I anti-alcohol? No. Am I anti any of that stuff? No, I don't really care. If you're inebriated to the point where you're going to make it inconvenient for me to have my day-to-day interactions with the world be normal, then it will become my problem. Which I can't guarantee what the resolution would be, but typically it's like, can I call you a cab so that you can not be around me anymore? You know what I'm saying? So it really wouldn't be that big of a deal. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not against any of the stuff, and I'm certainly not, I'm not telling anybody else to do anything, whether you like it or not or whatever. The one piece of recommendation that I give to people is that if they personally feel like there is a problem, there are people out there that will help you maintain a resolution to that problem. It's free. It's free to go to meetings. It's free to talk to people. It's free to go and get advice from people that give advice every week on that kind of stuff. But if you're just like, if whatever it is that you're doing isn't a problem, and it's not, causing problems in your life and that kind of stuff, then I don't care. It doesn't bother me. But like I said, and it certainly wouldn't bother me unless it becomes a negative interaction in my life. And then I'm just going to try and find some kind of resolution so that I can keep living my deal. Right. And it, that kind of ties in with the virus that's going on right now, and being spread around, that people are like, you can't tell me what to do. And it's a matter of like, if you have, the right to be free and do whatever you want, right? That means that that comes coupled with the responsibility to not abuse other people's rights. And That's really what it boils down to, is one of the reasons why we're having to wear masks when we're out in the public, in close public areas and stuff, is so that, like, if you're carrying the virus, you stop spreading it around so much. It's the same deal as, drugs and alcohol or whatever. If you happen to smoke weed, like, don't smoke weed in my backyard. Like, like it would be weird. It'd be weird if you just showed up on my property and were like, I'm just hanging out here smoking weed, bro. Like, what are you doing in my backyard, dude? It'd be like, yeah, you're supposed to do that where you're supposed to be doing that. It's the same thing as like open containers at the park, right? Like, no one really cares if you're drinking a beer at the park or something, realistically. But if you got 300 people drinking beer at a park and you got crazy loud music and everything's going all bonkers, like, the cops are going to show up and they're going to be like, technically the only illegal thing that you're doing is drinking alcohol at the park, so we're going to write you a fine for doing that. So the repercussion to inflicting on other people's rights of you being at the park, like drinking beer or whatever, is that, well, you have to pay a fine, and if you continue to get the same fine, then I think the stuff escalates. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a matter of, like, if you're free to do whatever, you have the responsibility to not inflict on other people's ability to live their right or live their life and their freedoms and stuff, So it's kind of the deal, Like, it's just kind of what it boils down to. Texas Quag says, well, you're better off without them. I've gone through the same thing, lost a lot of close friends because I stopped drinking heavily and all that. It hurt at first, but shows some people for who they are. It's just a reality of living in the world. It's kind of funny because, if I go to Europe, like, everybody drinks beer and wine and stuff like that in Europe, with like all their meals pretty much. But when people ask me, they're like, you want beer or wine or whatever? And you're like, no. And they're like, okay. That's pretty much it. In the U.S., if everybody's sitting around drinking beer and somebody offers you a beer and you're like, no, I don't want a beer, the immediate knee-jerk reaction that people ask you, whether it's it's not on purpose, it's just like ingrained in people. They go, oh, why not? And then it's like, oh, do you want to know why not? Because I struggled with drugs and alcohol for years, for decades in my life, for certain reasons that I don't normally talk about, like on the internet and whatnot. But, and then they're like put off by it, like, oh, wait. Oh, you're like a sober guy. Okay. Now I shall apply all sorts of weird predetermined ideals on you and get weird and uncomfortable, right? And it's sort of like, well, why were you asking me why? Is it, you're like, it's that same kind of thing where people like in the U.S. will ask you like, how you doing? And you'd be like, I'm not doing that great. Kind of tired. I don't feel good. But the reality is, like, they never wanted to know how you were doing. They were just trying to say hi. They're just trying to say hello. It's like, well, then why don't you just say hello and move on then, Like, why are you asking me a question? And then when I give you an answer, it's like suddenly I'm the bad guy, And that's just weird. It's weird to put it on the person that you ask the question when they answer the question, right? That to me is odd. I don't know. We got a $5 super chat from Sand Creek Aquatics. Says, congrats on your motivation. Congrats for your motivation on my journey. That's a confusing statement. But thank you. Congrats for your motivation on my journey. I'm confused by that statement. And I don't know. Maybe there's like punctuation missing or something. I don't know. But thank you, dude. I appreciate it. Excuse me. I don't have a cough button here. I literally was going to buy a thing that had a cough button so that I could do stuff like, hold on, I have to go like this. This is what I got to do. Let me go like this. And then I could do stuff like bring up the other camera. And a lot more easier, or a lot easier than I just did, right? So I could be like, oh, look at this thing up close. But some other YouTubers that are way more popular than me did some videos about it, and then they sold out. And the pandemic meant that they weren't going to get any more. Because they're just like been sold out for a grip now, so who knows. I'm allergic. I break out in paper hospital slippers. Don't know what that means. Big D Smokes said, I had someone actually say to me at a party, here, bro, you gotta, I know you quit drinking, but you can have a couple of beers though, right? Oh, Sand Creek Aquatics, congrats for your motivation on my journey on you staying sober. Okay, now I think I kind of get it. I think I get it now. I'm helping you stay motivated on your journey. Okay. I think I get it now. But, hey, man, congrats on you getting sober. That's dope. I appreciate hearing about people making positive changes, man. Like, there's like a story over the weekend that, like, Adele lost a bunch of weight and a bunch of people were, like, freaking out about it. Like, arguing back and forth and doing all this stuff. And it was just legit, like, why don't you people just say, like, congrats on her, like, working out a bunch, losing the weight, and then just move on. But I don't know. It turned into some, like, crazy weird internet battle, I guess. I don't know. Just very, very bizarre, where it was like Adele lost all this weight, and then people were trying to, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, like, very bizarre. Like, people trying to say that, like, she was beautiful now, but they were trying to say that she was beautiful before or whatever. I don't know. None of these people even know her, so I don't even get, like, what the deal is, but whatever. It's bizarre. I just feel like it's congrats to her for, like, all the days that she got up and went and worked out. Like, I don't know. That to me is, like, kudos. Like, that's hard to do. And I feel like a parallel there is, like, yeah, it's hard to get up and decide to be sober every day forever. But it turns out that it ends up getting easier and easier, which is the same thing with working out, guys. So if you ever feel like you want to work out, just start doing it and it sucks, and then eventually it stops sucking, and it just becomes a half an hour out of your day that it's just normally you doing a thing. Like, no one's ever, like, super upset that they have to take a shower. You know what I mean? It's like 15 minutes of being in the bathroom and soaping. Oh, man. Like, you just go do it. You're like, yeah, I did that today because it's Monday, like every other day. Terry's Tropical Tank says the EU didn't go through prohibition and a bunch of people forcing morality. Just a thought. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I could say it is kind of a thought, you know what I mean? Like, but I would also argue that, the EU had a bunch of other issues going on around that time anyhow. So, like, they had their own thing going on. We had our own weird American history going on here, with the prohibition, which turned out to be a really bad idea, by the way. And I do not endorse that idea. I think that's a stupid idea. If people want to know my personal politics, I think legalize all of it, regulate all of it, tax all of it, and do all that and move on and get rid of the war on drugs. It's a huge waste of money. It's a huge waste of time. It's a huge waste of energy. It's just dumb. And it would be, like right now in the pandemic, like a lot of people have been like raising all these flags because most of the drugs and production and all that kind of stuff it happens overseas. So the supply chain, when it comes down to it, like, oh, if there's a therapeutic drug that we need, well, we have to get it from overseas, which means there's a gigantic delay and we have to order it and it be manufactured from somewhere else. And then it's like FDA approval and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, if essentially, if you legalized all the drugs, and I'm not saying everything, but you know what I'm saying. If that stuff was legalized, just like we've seen with marijuana, is that it's grown here, we do it here, and like if somebody needed marijuana for something in the United States, it's already here. Like it already exists. And I just honestly think like one of the ways that we'd be able to bring back some of the manufacturing to the United States is if those markets existed that were a stabilized market, it would just start to make sense to be doing that kind of stuff. But it'll probably never happen anyhow. It's just it's just my opinion. I don't know. My opinion is often wrong. Hopefully we'll go down. Let's see. James Shepard says, thanks for something. What was he asking about? Oh, man. Let's roll back here and see what's going on through the chat. Yeah, because that's not what we're here for. We're not here to talk about prohibition and all that stuff. But, yeah, just some interesting thoughts. I probably am going to have to make another channel one of these days so I can talk about weird nonsense like that. But who knows if that'll ever happen. Because financially, there's the financial problem. I don't have time to do that kind of stuff. Reaver had to go to supper. I'll see you later. I know they act like fun. We choose not to drink. From Chris says, I know they act like we can't have fun because we choose not to drink a certain liquid. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, you go to a party and people are like, man, you're going to be uncomfortable and you're not going to have a good time. And it's like, okay, I guess nobody wants to talk to me unless I'm drinking or something. I don't know. It's kind of bizarre. I'm still a weirdo, and I mean, I'm sober now, and I talk for an hour and a half to 2 hours on a regular basis on the internet by myself without even really having anybody else to talk to. So I think, I don't know, or maybe they just think I'll go there and I'll talk too much. Could be what they're talking about. Somebody was asking something earlier, and I don't see it now. Somebody was asking about puffer food, and I don't know where it went. Revo finished a fish tank stand today. Ooh, that's always a good mark to hit. You finish a fish tank stand, that means it's about time to put the fish tank on it, which is my favorite part. Is coming right up. People with no problem if your opinion is theirs. Let's see. I don't know. I saw somebody had asked something earlier, and I wanted to answer it, and it was about puffers, but I can't find it now. James Shepard, I'm breeding cherry shrimp in shrimp tanks. Yeah, but for my Fahaka puffer. Oh, we found James Shepard's question. It says, would you breed shrimp for live food to feed a puffer fish? Is it good or bad, and what shrimp would you breed? Love the channel. Oh, okay. I can answer this question from maybe a different perspective than most people wouldn't have answered that. Can you breed those shrimp? Yes. For puffer food? Sure. But the big contingency is what puffer are you breeding those shrimp for? Because certain types of puffers are not good enough hunters to get and catch shrimp. Now, if you're talking about, Fahaka puffers, like figure 8 puffers, green spot puffers, Mabu puffers. Mabu puffers is the food would just be too small for them. But I'm trying to think of the smaller ones, because Mabu isn't going to stay small for very long. They will for a bit, but they won't stay small for very long. But like the Congo the Congo puffers I have, my Congo puffers are not good enough to catch shrimp. The shrimp are like chilling. Here comes a puffer fish, like, oh, there's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to strike on it. The puffer goes to strike, and the shrimp goes and escapes. Now, sometimes at night when it's dark, I think the puffer can slow creep on a shrimp or two here and there, but when the lights are on and I'm hanging out, staring at that puffer, watching my puffer do my puffer thing, that puffer is not good enough because it's trying to catch shrimp on a regular basis. And that puffer is just not adept enough to catch the puffers. So what I would almost always recommend in that kind of situation, like if you're breeding cherry shrimp prolifically, because you definitely should, if you're keeping cherry shrimp, you should be breeding them realistically, because it's one of the easiest things to resell in the hobby is cherry shrimp. One of the easiest things to resell and get some income from, because you don't need to spend a lot of money to breed cherry shrimp. And, you know, you really can gather up a bunch of them, sell them to stores, sell them to other, you know, other people that are keeping fish in the area. Like, there's always a market for them. There's always a market for them in the hobby. You know, somewhere around the hobby, somebody will give you cash for them. And if that's the case, more often than not, you can take that cash and just buy whatever food for your puffer that you needed to buy. So whether it be snails or some frozen stuff or some bloodworms or something like that. Like frozen bloodworms, it would be better, in my opinion, for the smaller puffers, you know, so figure 8 puffers, you know, green spot puffers, Congo puffers, stuff like that. I would just get a couple packs of frozen bloodworms, which are going to last you a long time, plus whatever snails, whatever like snails you can breed and stuff like that, because it's easier to breed snails. It's not as difficult, and you can just kind of go about your day not really worrying about breeding the snails that much once you got the setup going. I literally had to set up a specific tank that was going to be able to breed the snails in, because I couldn't keep them going in my other tanks, so I actually had to set up a tank for breeding the snails. But once it's set up, it's actually pretty simple, and you can just pull, you know, I think Preston's the guy who brought this up to me, superficially in like one of his Instagram posts. He was talking about people ask how many snails he feeds them, you know, and it's literally like he goes by the scale, and I just kind of go by the amount. So I don't feed the big snails or the tiny snails. So I just find medium little snails. Those are the ones that I grab up some of those, and it's maybe like, you know, about a dime's worth in my hand. And I just go that route. That's going to be the best thing. So, or that's the route that I go. Ooh, I don't know how to say this name. Mirdul Singh. Hopefully I got that right. Asks, what's the fastest growing cryptocorini? Wendedii. Wendedii is, in my opinion, probably the fastest growing cryptocorini out of them all. You know, it's going to be probably the easiest and the fastest growing in my experience. As long as you can keep the tank parameters stable, it will start growing like crazy and will fill out a whole tank pretty quickly. You know, that's really the fastest growing crypt, like in my opinion and my experience. So there might be some out there that for some people grow faster, but that's the one that's, you get the tank set, you get it going, and they send out runners like crazy, and you could carpet a tank pretty easy with it. Hotea Marion says, how do you set a tank for snails, like ramhorn snails? Yeah, so basically what you do is you got to bring the water hardness up. You got to have an availability of food for them to breed, and you got to have high calcium in there so they can continue to grow shells, lay eggs, and get more snails going. Actually pretty basic, you know, temperature is, 70 degrees. What's 70 in Celsius? You guys always got me tripping. 70 in Celsius. 21, 22 Celsius. Yeah. So right around there. Alyssa Bentley says, I would get a bunch of aragonite and use it as a substrate, a sponge filter, and feed them and do water changes. Cheap 10-gallon would be perfect for it. And yes, that is probably a more concise explanation than I was given. Than I was giving. I was in the middle of dissertating. Yeah, you want to add a bunch of aragonite. I didn't use it as a substrate. I just bag it up into those net bags with the zipper. Drop that in there and go that route because it's simpler, it's cleaner, it's easier for me to deal with. So, yeah, I just go that road. Yeah, and yeah. And I can't think of anything else to add to that. But yeah, do water changes, add some plant matter. But yeah, I guess that's food. So, with snails, you want to do both. You want to add some protein rich and some plant matter type stuff. You just carve off some zucchini, throw it in there. Pretty easy. That kind of stuff. But they're pretty easy to feed. And if they don't like a food, it'll be obvious. Because if they like a food, they'd be covered in snails, be chomping away at it. And chomping's maybe not a good descriptive word, but you get what I'm saying. They all clamor up on it. Christopher Gonzalez. How do you breed cherry shrimp for profit? Breed a lot of them and get rid of the poorly colored females. So any of the females that are not a nice bright red, get them out of the tank. And when I say get them out of the tank, most people say cull them, which unfortunately when you say cull normally means to like kill them, but don't. Just bag them up and sell those ones with some males. And just continue doing that and sell them, breed them, sell them, breed them, sell them. Same kind of setup as the shrimp tank. I would do some 20 gallons just because it's easier with shrimp to do 20 gallons in my opinion. I probably would get 4 tanks, set them up in a row, run them on sponge filters or a matin filter or something like that. Keep the light at a regular-ish kind of setup. I would do maybe some mosses or just grow hair algae in there. You can just grow an algae farm, and the shrimp do great in an algae farm. So you could put a bunch of light on it and no plants, nothing to uptake the nutrients, and algae will grow and shrimp will breed, and they'll go bonkers. So, yeah, and then just take any of the funky-looking females and sell them off. Sell off the males because you don't need hundreds and hundreds of males in there either. And the males will inherently be, generally speaking, less colorful than the females. So you really want to be real selective with the females, especially with cherry shrimp. They breed, they will accept a lot of water conditions, so you don't need to have like, RODI water. You don't need to be like pre-filtering your water or anything like that. So, pretty simple basic setup, and just keep doing that. And before you know it, you'll get a lot of customers. You can post Craigslist, Facebook ads, stuff like that. Woo. I don't know what is going on. So earlier this year, I had pneumonia, and a lot of people, since having had that pneumonia earlier this year, hold on. I had multiple diagnoses, a bunch of x-rays and all that kind of stuff. And since then, a lot of people have said that they were like, yeah, you must have had the coronavirus. Now, I don't know if I've had it or not. I have not been tested. Our baby was tested at one point to find out if she was actively had it and didn't. So chances are probably not. I don't know. But I've never been tested for it, so it would be wildly, wildly inappropriate for me to say that I have or haven't or anything like that. But I did go through a bunch of antibiotics. I got a bunch of x-rays. It cleared up, that kind of stuff. But I have definitely had allergies and all sorts of stuff that I don't normally have. I normally have like mild really exceptionally mild or zero allergies whatsoever. 100%. So it's been very weird. I've been coughing and boogers and all sorts of sneezing and all sorts of stuff this year. It's very weird. Klaus is asking, have a question. Have a 120-gallon tank. What's the CO2 bubble count? Thanks in advance. More power to your channel. You're going to go ahead and I don't know what the CO2 bubble count needs to be. It depends on how you're adding your CO2 into it. You know, the bubble count depends on how you're putting CO2 into the tank. I run my CO2 into reactors, so my bubble count's kind of irrelevant, you know. But you want to set your CO2 to between 30 and 40 parts per million. I don't test for it very much anymore because I've been running my tanks off of reactors for a really long time. And you know, these days it's pretty basic for me. I get them set up and I just run them, and I kind of, you know, it's bad advice to give to people, but like I get a feel for things are growing well and things aren't growing well. And it's just like driving a car with a bad transmission. Like, you know how to baby it and like not break it. You know what I'm saying? Like you can use it to drive all around town, but you just can't be, you know, it's not a race car anymore or anything like that. You know, you get a feel for operating either a machine or some equipment or something like that. It's the same kind of deal. So, you know, like one of my tanks, how many bubbles per second? I don't know. I don't even have a bubble counter on it anymore, so I don't know. But it's it's especially one of the reasons why I use a reactor. I'm putting CO2 into the system. It's actually flowing back in there, so I can actually see some of the bubbles are circulating around. They aren't completely filling up the reactor or anything like that. And I know that they're getting CO2 into the system. And I'm trying to remember the exact method for testing for CO2. Hold on, CO2 testing. I don't want to get this wrong, and I feel like it's not in my head properly at this moment for whatever reason. So the CO2 pH to KH table, this is where I would refer people to go to. Yeah, here you go. Here's actually copy. So here's Tom's paste. So that's Tom's. The bar report is Tom Barr's forum page that can give you a whole walkthrough on how to do that kind of stuff. I feel like whenever I talk about this stuff on a live stream, I get like a million questions later, and then somebody's like, wait, you got that backwards, you got this, da-da-da-da. It's easy for me to kind of screw these up, so I would say run over to the bar report, read that forum. It'll give you a walkthrough on how to do it, what you're doing, and go that route. So Tom is a great guy. He's a good friend of mine, and he's also like the American Takashi Amano. So yeah, he's an awesome dude, and I'm hoping to visit him again this year. Let's see. I was talking to him the other day about possibly coming down to film some stuff. He's teaching school again, and they're on kind of sabbatical right now. So I was hoping to go down there and try and film some stuff, but it's a long drive, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, if you run over the bar report, that thread right there is a great spot to jump off from if you are a little bit confused. Hotea says, if you run an airstone at night and CO2 daytime, could you have too big of a pH swing, and will it be bad for fish? You can. That can happen. I don't run an airstone only during the day. I run airstones now in my sumps 24 hours a day. I don't turn them off. So if there's a recommendation that I would give to people is to run it 24 hours with the CO2. But, you know, most people don't have a sump. Most people have a hang-on back filter, or they have a canister filter, and the stuff becomes really confusing. So I run those Zeiss, little what are they? The K1, bubble filter, whatever the hell you call those, in the sumps now. So that's like running an Airstone in the sump. I run them 24 hours a day. I don't turn them on and off or anything like that. And my pH is pretty stable at this point. So not really seeing issues with it. And I've been doing that for the better part of 9 months. So I wouldn't say I have no evidence. I would say that I'm working off like a good amount of time to say that it's not a negative, and I would say that it's more or less a benefit. Mickey M says, Cryptocarani ousteriana often grows fast, but it is not very similar to all my other crypts since it almost grows like Val, growing tall and getting close to the light. Ousteriana grows quickly when it gets like a real handle on your, and you get your water set just right. It will grow pretty fast. That is for sure. But it's also a crypt that doesn't really like to grow with other crypts, if that makes sense. It's not one that fits with a lot of them. So, yeah. I mean, it's a great plant. I love it, but it doesn't really fit in with the other crypts, realistically. Code 1635 says, did anyone have a recommendation for a reliable rare aquarium Cryptocarani seller? No. I mean, maybe Boost Plant might be your best spot, probably, especially in the U.S., realistically. I would say that Boost Plant is probably the most reliable out of rares and stuff like that, but when you start getting into any rare plant, I would definitely have to give the advice to anybody out there that to just tread lightly, because the reality of the rare plant game is that you are kind of rolling the dice. You are kind of rolling the dice on if it gets shipped and it's going to get damaged during shipping. Like Pogostemon erectus would be a good example. Not a very rare plant, right? You can find it around. But one of the downsides of Pogostemon erectus is it ships terribly. So if you stick it in a bag, stick it in a box, put it in the mail, and it gets somewhere in like 2 or 3 days, not normally a big deal. Pogostemon erectus does not like that at all. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. So, that is there's a lot of variables that you're having to deal with when you're ordering rare plants. So definitely go into it and be like, you're going to have to take the success and the fails with a grain of salt. And, one of the biggest problems is like with those shipping issues, something can happen to the plant, and then you contact the seller, and the seller's like, well, I don't know, man. I sent you the plant. It kind of sucks, but I don't even have anything to replace it with. So I guess you're going to have to wait for me to replace it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not as though, somebody's sitting on, 100 pots of that plant, and then they're like, oh, I'll just send you another one, man. Sorry about that. It's because it's a rare plant. So they probably don't have a lot of it. It probably doesn't ship well, which is one of the reasons why it's probably rare. Maybe it grows super slow, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of weird little reasons, but, it's not exactly like, ordering up some grass seed for your lawn. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason they're rare. There's a variance of reasons, but if you're going into it, just know that there will be some fails for sure. So if you're going into it with that mindset and you have mostly success, I think it'll be a lot better for you. Pogostemon erectus, can I grow without CO2? You can. Yeah, I mean, I've had experience of growing it without CO2. I recommend people to just get CO2. It's going to happen. If you're in the Planet Aquarium game, and maybe you're only 6 months in, or maybe you just don't want to spend any money on stuff or whatever, like, okay, I mean, everybody has different opinions on what they want to do or what they don't want to do or whatever. But I will say this, people that stay in the aquarium, especially Planet Aquarium game, you will end up buying a CO2 system. So I would just get in the mindset now that you're going to get some CO2, because it's just a better way to go about it. It just makes life a lot easier. So I would just recommend people to do it. You can bring up the CO2 and you can make your plants grow a lot easier. You don't have to go crazy with it, but you can add a little bit of CO2 to the tank, and it'll, make your life a little bit easier on your plants, and makes life easier on you. And, most people are like, oh, I don't want to spend any money, and it's like, okay, well, but you're going to at some point, so might as well just get it out of the way now. Get it in your head that that's what you're going to do, because that's what I've seen time and time again. Revo watched the Manzanita trip today. Right on. I don't feel like I did that video justice, but it's not the worst video I've ever made, so there's that. Christopher Gonzalez is set up my first plant 9-gallon bowl. I used water from a water mill to fill the bowl. After testing the water in the bowl, it came out to 52 TDS. How do I raise the TDS? Whatever's in that bowl will raise the TDS. So if there's leaves or substrate or plant matter or driftwood or any of that kind of stuff, TDS is a pointless measurement, to be honest with you. What you'd really want to worry about is pH. You want to make sure that your pH is kind of stable. Ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, and GH and KH are probably the only tests you'll ever really need, realistically. So I would not worry about TDS. There's too many people on the internet that keep telling people that, like, TDS is important. And TDS is a literal abbreviation of total dissolved solids. And I've talked about this many times before, and people will be super mad that I'm talking about it again. But TDS stands for total dissolved solids, and all it's doing is measuring the electrical conductivity of water. That's it. That's all that it's doing. So water does not conduct electricity very well. When things get added to it, it conducts electricity better. And what that machine is doing, that little handheld TDS tester, is just measuring the resistance of the water via an electrical charge, and it's just telling you that there is stuff in the water. It's not telling you what's in the water. I mean, your ammonia could be, you could have 500 parts per million of ammonia and not know it because you use the TDS meter. So don't worry about the TDS that much, unless there's something specific that you're doing with the tank, like let's say you're trying to run a black water tank with a lot of tannins, and you want to not rely on the visual measurement of how many tannins are in the water. You can get an idea from a TDS meter that you're like, oh, that seems about the same as last week. But it's like when you're losing weight. You look at yourself in the mirror every single day, or you look at your tank every single day. You're like, yeah, it seems the same. But you might not notice the dramatic difference between 1 month and a month later because you're seeing it every single day. So a TDS meter might come in handy for something like that, or remineralizing the water. So the real main use for a TDS meter would be remineralization of RODI water, which is reverse osmosis deionized water, which means it's like pure water. There's nothing in it. It's like 100% filtered down, and you're going to add like some shrimp salts to it, right, to try to bring your GH and KH up a little bit. But you're coming from like a measured chemical, right? So you have a TDS of 0 via the meter because you completely filtered your water. TDS is 0, and then you're going to add, this isn't a shrimp salt, but let's say you're going to add the shrimp salt to it. You're coming from a measured amount, right? And then you're like going to bring the TDS up to 40, for instance. And you go like, oh, I have enough of the shrimp salt added to the water. That's useful too. But those are kind of the only two uses that a TDS meter is good for. I've seen a lot of people that like, you know, they get a shipment of fish and they put the TDS meter in with the shipment of fish water, which is like fish water that's been completely closed off from the outside environment for however many days that those fish have been shipping. So they've been, you know, exhausting waste into the water. They've been doing whatever into that water. And then you try to like match the TDS and then dump the fish into that. It does not, it doesn't really do anything for you to know that the TDS is at 170 in your tank and the TDS is 170 in this bag of water that you got. JH Aquatics. Oh my God. What's up, my guy? He's landed in Vermont. What is up, my dude? Good to see you. And it's snowing. Yeah. Welcome to Vermont, dude. It's snowing later than it has ever snowed in the northeastern part of America. It is snowing out there and super cold. It's wild. I think it's the latest it's ever snowed, ever, I think. Well, on record or whatever. Totally weird. JH, I saw... Big City Betas on Instagram. She posted where you guys are going to be broadcasting from your corner there with all the tanks and everything. It looked fantastic, man. That's awesome. I'm pleasantly surprised that Amber has done such a great job. I've only met her like once or twice or something, quickly at some conventions, and she always seems so nice and everything. She's a wild driver, though. Do not get in a car with Amber if she's driving. I'm not saying that she's the worst driver ever. It's wild, though. It's wild. Wild driver. Great fish keeper, wild driver. There we go. How about that? I think it's a good way to put it, right? I'm not trying to be mean or nothing. But I have to say I was in the back seat, and I was a little bit scared that we were going to crash and die. Mary Paige Flynn is here. Says, hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Well, happy Monday to you. Fish Room Fever, you're adjusting well. Oh, yeah. I'm not getting CO2 because what if not there to turn it on? Put it on a timer. Get a solenoid on the CO2, and it runs on a timer just like the lights. So, simple solution. It's on a timer. It turns on, turns off. Very, very simple solution. So, if you have a light timer, it's just the same thing. You just plug in the solenoid to the CO2, and it's very, very simple. You just have it turn on an hour before the lights turn on and turn off. Generally 2 hours before the lights turn off or an hour before the lights turn off. Was asking about the TDS as I eventually plan to add Ember Tetras, Amanos, and Nerites. Yeah, I mean, you should generally be fine. I mean, if you're adding Ember Tetras, Amanos, and Nerites, you're definitely going to be more concerned about ammonia, nitrate, and nitrite. Nitrite and nitrate. Those are going to be the more important things for you to worry about. I wouldn't be that worried about the other stuff that's going on. Make sure the plants are growing and make sure that your ammonia is at 0, your tank is cycled, and you're going to be good to go. I mean, chances are a 9-gallon bowl, you're really only going to have a couple of tetras in there, like a couple of shrimp and some snails. So I wouldn't be that worried about it. I'd be more worried about the water quality as far as the health of the fish and all that. So I just wouldn't be that worried about TDS. Mickey M says, a Pogostemon erectus ships better if coming from a greenhouse. Technically, yeah. I mean, if it comes from inside a tank, to follow back on what we were talking about with the rare plants before, if it comes, from inside a tank, it doesn't oftentimes ship very well. Yeah. Steve Beartyke is asking if I got ponds. I currently do not have any ponds. The big reason for that was I hand dug a giant pond for Aquarium Co-op last year instead of redoing the pond that I have here. And I have not had time to do that this year. It's been a pandemic. I had the plans to do it. I still have all my rebar and everything out there for my concrete that should have gone in months ago. But then the pandemic broke out and the cement was unable to be delivered in a cement truck. So we're just getting back to the point where I think cement trucks are running again, and I think they've caught up on some of their jobs. So I'm hoping to get all these walkways and stuff poured very, very soon. And then I can get back to working on the pond stuff that I was going to do. But it's really not that important for me to have ponds here personally. But I am currently building some aquaponics systems and stuff that will be attached to the greenhouse. It's more important for me to be doing aquaponics than it is to just be having ponds outside. I have enough experience with so many friends of mine that have like those big Rubbermaid totes outside, and I always see what happens to everybody's Rubbermaid totes outside, and they just kind of turn into a algae pond by the end of the year normally, more often than not. So, yeah, I mean, just to have some Rubbermaid totes and that kind of stuff outside is just not my goal. That's not my end game, and that's not something that I would really do anyhow. So I just think it's funny when people use those those horse troughs and stuff, and then they just have them sitting outside and they just throw some fish in there. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't really seem like a project to me. It just seems like a afterthought that they just happen to do it. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem that thought out. GH Aquatics is asking aquaculture or aquaponics. Aquaponics, my guy. Like aquaculture of stuff. There's not really a big reason for me to do aquaculture, like fish and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of fish breeders out there, and the property that we have here, it would not be I don't think it would be a benefit for me to be breeding a bunch of fish here on this property. I could start it. I could get it going, and eventually I would have this big giant project here on a piece of property that we're probably going to move from. We were considering at one point to sell the property this year, where I'm broadcasting from right now. But obviously there's a global pandemic, so probably going to have to wait till next year or something. I don't know. But we'll see what shakes out. But doing aquaculture here, it just would not, there's really no benefit to my family. There's not necessarily any benefit to the internet, because almost every aquaculture project out there that I could do here on this property is easily outshined by any of the big fish breeders out there. I could just drive up to Bothell and film at koi.com again and show you guys the breeding ponds there again. You know, some of them there are like 200, 300 feet long. They're big ponds, man. So yes, I'm going to actually do aquaponics again. You know, from more often than not, I've built a bunch of other people's aquaponics systems, and most of them I couldn't film because I was doing them with a company I'd rather not talk about. So, you know, I couldn't film them or do anything like that. And the place that I lived at before here was a rental, so we were always kind of like, maybe I shouldn't build a system there because we didn't really want to put money into somebody else's property, but we own this property, so we'll probably end up doing it here fairly soon, just depending on what happens with the pandemic stuff that's going on. Because I do have to admit, I am a little bit nervous now with everybody just opening wide up and the virus getting spread around, because, you know, there's like 1 million people have had it, but 1 million people tested positive, but who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. We'll see what shakes out. Rose Aquatics just showed up. What's up? Good to see you, Ro. All right. 41 likes. Ooh, that seems insufficient. Probably didn't conjure up enough likes from people talking about the early stuff in the show. Although we did conjure up some pretty generous super chats, so at least I can say fart and stuff like that. Not worry about getting demonetized. But the people that are currently here right now, all 93 of you, I would let you know, if you are actually listening right now, these live streams are actually, they go unlisted once the stream ends, and I'm thinking that I'm going to leave it that way. So if you are on the Patreon, you'll get a notification probably starting next week. I'll probably post an early notification. But if you're on Patreon or you're a member on YouTube, get on the Discord, because I pretty regularly post on the Discord when the stream is going to go live with a clickable link and all that kind of stuff. These live streams will still be on YouTube. You can still watch them later. They will just be unlisted. So if you don't have a link for it, you won't be able to find it. It will be difficult to find it after the fact. So just trying to give the heads up out there. It seems to me that just living here in YouTube purgatory for so long, one of my favorite YouTubers hit 1 million subs the other day, and he did a video where he's actually talking about him being in YouTube purgatory, and I realized that one of the things that he did was he live streams as often as I do, so twice a week generally. And but his live streams go unlisted after the fact, and it actually plays into less negative to the algorithm if you do it that way. So, you know. So yeah, if you have notifications turned on and you have it sent to your email, you'll have the link. So you don't have to subscribe or any of that kind of stuff. Or, sorry, you don't have to be on Patreon or any of that kind of stuff. But if you're subscribed, you have all your notifications turned on, your push notifications, your phone, all that stuff all is turned on correctly. You'll get a notification and there'll be a link in the notification. So you still get that. That doesn't go away, nothing like that. But I think I'm just gonna try this out for a while and see how well it works. You know, and if it doesn't work, then I'll just turn them back to public or whatever, and that'll be the deal. Issue with red Ludwigia from Ryan K says, when I first planted, had leaves all up and down the stems. Now only the tops have leaves. Dosing fertilizer and iron. Ludwigia is growing tall, and I am trimming. No lower leaves. Any plants that are growing super tall like that will eventually give up on the lower leaves. Doesn't matter what plant. I do not care what plant, but here's an example that most of us have seen. Go outside and look at a tree. Okay? See a tree? Hold on, let me find a picture of a tree. Image. Here we go. Images. Let me find a tree. Oh, here's one. Let's go save image as. And let's call it tree pooper. We'll call it tree pooper. And then we go over here and we go add source, media file, images. What the? Oh, I turned on the title text on accident. We don't want that. Hold on. I got too many things in here. Remove. There we go. Okay. So let me go add source, media file. There we go. Tree pooper. There it is. Ba-boom! It's right on my face. Wait, does it not work? Oh my God, really? All that work. We went through all that work. Okay, here's a tree image. Save image as pooper2 electric boogaloo. There we go. Okay. So I don't know what the hell happened with this file. Let's go ahead and we'll just remove that. And then we'll go back to the add source media file. The pooper2 electric boogaloo. This time it's personal. Here's a tree. Okay. This is maybe not the best illustration of what I was trying to go for. But as you can see from this tree right here, right? You'll notice at the base of the tree, at the stalk. Why are there no leaves down there at the bottom? Right? There's no leaves down there at the bottom because there's no real photosynthesis going on down there at the bottom, at the stem, at the trunk of the tree. So imagine that you're Ludwigia. Imagine that, what actual plant were you asking about? Yeah, Ludwigia. Yeah, Ludwigia, any Pogostemon, any of that kind of stuff that grows up tall. There's just really no point for those leaves way down here at the bottom to be trying to photosynthesize when up above, it's growing all these other leaves that are photosynthesizing, right? And, of course, you guys can't see my arrow because I need to go find my arrow image. Audio take, that's Olivia. Where's my arrow? Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's turn on the arrow. But now, see, now it's behind. So now we have to drag the arrow all the way up to the top. Man, this is an exciting show, guys. Welcome to the show. All right. So all of these leaves up above are photosynthesizing at the exact same way that they are in your tank, right? All of the leaves down below are getting blocked and maybe getting some radiant light that is being accumulated by some of those leaves down at the bottom, but not as much. Now, it is up here on the planet Earth going to be getting some light. The sun is quite powerful, okay? The power rating on the sun is off the charts, okay? So those lower leaves will be getting some light and stuff like that, ambient light, right? But it's a waste of energy for the plant to be maintaining and continuing to grow those leaves. So it pulls back the energy off of those and they just melt away and die, or they just look like crap. I've posted lots and lots of videos of me trimming the tops off of plants, pulling it out of the substrate, and replanting the top. I would highly recommend to follow that planting regimen. There are some guys out there like Dennis Wong would be a good example of a guy who just continues to trim and trim and trim and trim and trim as he's shaping his plants, but that's going to be more specific plants that are going to be growing right back from where you cut it off. Now, Ludwigia will do the same thing, but you won't be shaping a bush out of it. You'll just be having new sprouts from that spot where you cut it off, and it'll eventually just look super muddled. Now, it's a thing that you can do with Ludwigia by trimming the tops, resprouting it, and having it grow right in that spot. But eventually it will just continue to grow up all the way to the top of the tank, and all the leaves down at the bottom of it will end up looking like crap. So it is just, you will reach a point. You're going to have to trim it, replant the top, and so just go ahead and get that in your mind and just go that route, because that's what's going to end up happening. You're going to reach that point, and you're going to have to do it, so you might as well do it. Elijah Gordon says, Joel, have you ever grown basement tomatoes through aquaponics? Yes, many times. Yeah. Yep. That's one of the reasons why you can't film those types of setups, you know what I'm saying? Because back in the day, a bunch of guys with machine guns would show up and be like, you can't have basement tomatoes here, not in these neck of the woods. But yeah, yeah, I definitely have done that, and it is a lot of fun, and I would recommend just about anybody out there to get into it. Hydroponics is exclusively no fish. Aquaponics is with fish. That's the differentiation, so pretty easy. A lot of there's some kind of cool products out there now to do vertical gardening in apartment spaces, which is kind of an aquaponic type system that's growing vertically. Those are quite cool. I saw that the other day, but I don't know if those things are flimsy or crappy or anything like that, so I can't really recommend whether they work or not or anything like that. So I definitely will have to keep y'all posted on whether or not what is going on here? I'm confused. I don't know. Okay, we got weird emails over here that just popped up. But those vertical ones I've seen, I have not personally tested them out, so I wouldn't go out on a limb here and be like, hey, you guys should try it out. So maybe at some point I will find somebody that has one. But for now, I would say build your own. That's definitely going to be the thing. Patreon has gone up to $2.43, and we had somebody reinstated their pledge, basically. So somebody reinstated their patronage, and it doesn't tell me who that is when that happens, which is kind of interesting. And Steven Skoglund edited his pledge. Thank you, brother. It's all good. This is one of the things about Patreon. You can put in a custom pledge. It could be like $12. It could be $3.48. It could be whatever it is. It could be $1 a month. That's one of the reasons that we have Patreon. There's a lot of people out there that were like, dude, I want to help support the channel, but I only have $1.50 a month. And it's like, okay, well, that's why we got Patreon. YouTube members is a lot less flexible. Although YouTube kept sending me emails to make different tiers. They kept, I'm telling you guys, it was an obscene amount of emails, like 3 a day, okay? And because it's YouTube, I'm like, I have to let the YouTube creator emails come in because they update things, right? So it was like coming from the official YouTube email thing, right? And it was like 3 a day. It was like, you got to set extra tiers up with your membership. So I was like, fine. I put the most, I maxed out the amount, and then I did a $50 one and a $100 one, which is the most that you could do. And we actually have one person at the $100 level, which is insane. I didn't think that would ever happen, but we do have one person to remain anonymous at the $100 level. But yeah, so yeah, thank you. Somebody updated it, and I don't know who it was. Somebody updated it, but thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so let's get back to what we were doing. Oh, and the other thing I have to tell you guys, if you haven't noticed, there's this giant ad for T-shirts. I made some new t-shirts. I did all the design on them. I actually had a designer help out too. So check out the shirts and that kind of stuff because that would be big help. I know that some people said like the prices are a little bit high, and it's because I had to restart the Teespring stuff, and I don't have any discounts on there. So one of the unfortunate things is if you sell more volume on Teespring, they allow you to bring the pricing down. So and discounts and sales that take off of the Teespring end. So we have like 2 more weeks of making like 5 or 6. I think 6 sales a week. I think if we make 6 sales a week in t-shirts, so to those of you that think like, wow, I was going to buy 1 t-shirt and that's not a big deal. Realistically, we just need like 6 people to buy a t-shirt. So that we actually have the air quote volume number, to continue to lower our pricing on there. And then I'll be able to force the pricing to be more affordable on the premium shirts, because I don't want to go with the cheap shirts, because last time I went with the cheap shirts, everybody told me it wasn't that good of quality, and I even ordered one for myself, and I was like, this is not that good. So we shall see. Elijah's wondering what kind of nutrients, if any, to use for your aquaponic tomatoes. Go to a grow shop, and there'll be like 40 different types of liquid fertilizers you can find there. They are super toxic. Do not use them with fish. But yeah, you go there, and it's always like Jimbo's magic purple nutrient nonsense. So way more affordable than fish fertilizers. You buy it by the 3-gallon tote thing. It'll last you a really long time. It's really just go to your local pond store, so I can't remember any of the specific brands off the top of my head. They were all very stoner-ish though. So I've been backing off on the gravel vac. I can try the root tabs that I have for the root feeders. Yeah, I mean, root tabs can be useful in most aquariums. It's not something I normally advise that much because I personally like fertilizing the water column myself because of my style of keeping. So, but root tabs can definitely be helpful for a lot of people. So, give some root tabs a try if you are having a little bit of issue with growth, and maybe you're not adding as much like liquid fertilizer like I do. I'm kind of loosey-goosey with the liquid ferts, so I'm not that worried about it. Your advice on trimming the top and replanting was a game changer since I started doing it. Yeah, I mean, that's really what you got to do. That's the direction you got to go. I was recommending people to go to Tom Barr, the Barr Report, to look at some of the forum posts there in regards to the CO2. That same guy told me like probably 8 years ago or something like that, maybe 10 years ago. God, I'm old. Was like, trim the tops and replant them. What are you, stupid? And I was like, yeah. He was like, okay, then do that. And I was like, ah. So, I mean, it wasn't even initially my advice. That came from Tom Barr, who was like, do that. And I was like, oh. And I saw tons of success with it. And I was like, why don't people do that? And why doesn't anybody give that advice? Because it is really, honestly, the best way to propagate, the best way to continue growing a beautiful tank. It really is. It helps ruffle up the substrate too a little bit, because it has a tendency to almost always get compact around a root ball. So it does definitely help out. Gurab Root is asking, what are the essential fertilizer? Please tell me. Macronutrients. I utilize Aquarium Co-op. Do I have a shirt? No, I don't have a shirt, but I have a hat. Aquarium Co-op. Easy Green is the fertilizer that I use on a regular basis. It is the easiest one. It is an all-around easy fertilizer. Super easy to use. It has a micronutrient, has macronutrient. It's basically like a dialed-down version of EI dosing. So really super easy fertilizer to use. And I also use it Easy Iron. Only about a third of the time, really, though. I don't use the easy iron that much, but it does make it helpful. Like, drop a little iron in there, make my life a little easier to manage. So I don't know what part of the world that you're in. CChem, I think, is kind of worldwide. They make a pretty good one as far as like the worldwide goes. Yeah, it's hard for me to know if you're overseas, but if you're in the U.S. or Canada, Aquarium Co-op Easy Green, it's one I can recommend for sure. And another one of the reasons I say that is that I do know a lot of the fertilizers, and there really aren't any that I would say are better. There are a lot that I would say are worse. There are a lot that I would say are comparable. There aren't really any I would say are better. So, yeah. And Gurab says we don't have that in India. If you're in India, I would ask. Crap. I'm trying to remember his name. Can't remember his name. Let me see. His name is his name's around here somewhere on my Facebook page. This may take a second. But it might be worthwhile. No. Sorry. I'm not finding it. But there's a guy whose name escapes me right now in India who does a ton of Planet Tank stuff. And I was chatting with him on Facebook. Oh, here we go. Dino. Oh, well, that's why. He just goes by just Dino now. So if you could look up Dino, D-I-N-O. He just goes by Dino now. And I think that's probably because he's become too popular. But if you find him on there, you can find him on Facebook. His latest post had, 1,500 likes and 350 comments. So it should be pretty easy to find him. And I think he's a public profile, so you can actually ask him what's available in India. That might be a route to go. Hard to say. I've personally never been to India, so I never know what is going on that side of the world and other countries. We have ADA and CChem. I would probably just go with the ADA, honestly, if I was to choose between the two. Aqua Design and Mono, you generally can't go wrong, other than it's pretty expensive. So that'd be the deal. Christopher Gonzalez is wondering what basement tomatoes are. Back in the day, we would normally refer to basement tomatoes as illegal marijuana growing operations because they were normally grown underground, under buildings, in basements, stuff like that, because it's illegal. It's like a moonshine operation. You don't want people to see or know what you're doing, so you do it in the ground. 50 likes, 55 likes seems a little bit low. And we didn't sell any shirts, but we did get a Patreon came back. So shout out to that for sure. Thank you very much. And I know people typically get super mad at me because I'm trying to fundraise. I'm trying to fundraise my dream here so that I can bring other people along with my dream. I know who I'm going to hire. If we get to the point where I could hire somebody, I know who I'm going to hire. So, yeah, consider it a commercial for my own thing. You guys are all watching commercials for erectile dysfunction and stuff like that. At least it's me being legitimate and saying that, like, yeah, I'm trying to fund more projects, more fish tank stuff, more videos and stuff like that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've made over 1,100 videos on YouTube. So I feel like if people think that I'm not going to follow through on making more videos, I don't know what to tell you. I've made over 1,100 videos in 12 years, so I will likely continue making them. So, that's why I bring that crap up. And it is getting close to the end of the show, so I want to give a shout out to everybody who, we got no new members today, but let's run over to the viewer activity. Jason LaFavor killing it today, coming in with some big-time super chats. Dude, props. Thanks, man. And the Fish Tank Barn always being supportive and a member of the channel, so thank you very much, my guy, for sure. Dude, Mike, let's go dad van driving around sometime soon, dude. We got to do that. I don't know how I'm going to ever get to your side of the country. I might have to drive there these days. I don't know. It seems like air travel is shaky at best, but hopefully I'll get out to the Midwest East Coast sometime soon. Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know the future, dude, but let's do some dad van stuff and go film some things. Sand Creek Aquatics for the super chat. Thank you very much, too. And shout out to all the members in the chat. Big D Smoke, Joel G, Steve Baratike, Big D Smoke, my man, my local yokel. Fish Room Fever in the chat with the membership. Thanks, my guy. Alyssa Bentley, for sure. I'm scrolling, trying to find all the members. James Lyser, my dude. My dude been around a long time, man. Definitely props to you. All right, I'm running out. I'm just scrolling and rambling and making goofy noises now. The Chubby Guppy with a $10 super chat towards the dysfunction. Thank you very much, dude. Appreciate it. WTF MRB. That's one of the funniest names I've seen in a long time. I appreciate it. I like that. This is good. It's just funny. So, are the area covered by the leaves towards the light, of course, give the tops a better chance to photosynthesize? Yeah. All right, guys. Appreciate you a lot. Lots of love. All the love to you all. Very much appreciate it. And Twitter, I cannot get Twitter to not email me. That's the other one. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before. I've blocked 1 million Twitter accounts from sending me emails, and it's the one company that can figure out how to do it. That is annoying, that is for sure. All right, guys. All the love in the world to everybody out there, and I will be back on Wednesday. So I would like you all to know that Wednesday I will be doing a coffee stream. I'll do a stop in for a cup of coffee, and likely be obviously talking about fish tank stuff for sure, probably, but likely going over. That's my sober birthday, whatever you want to call that. So hope you all are having a fantastic time out there. Hopefully the pandemic ain't getting down on you too much, and things are going well. And I'll talk